Well, the crossover continues, as well as the 100th episode of Arrow, that is by far one of the most emotionally effective episodes of Arrow thus far. Hey guys, Hammer for Arrow, Season 4, Episode 8, Invasion. I was definitely looking forward to this episode. Again, this is the third part to the Heroes vs. Aliens crossover. I hate saying third part because it technically is the second part because, again, Supergirl wasn't really a part of anything, but either way, I was definitely, well, it was, but, you know, it's only like 2 minutes, but either way, I was definitely looking forward to, this episode. You guys know I love the first part of the crossover. And while this was the second part of the crossover, this was definitely more of an Arrow episode, because this was, in fact, the 100th episode of Arrow, and what a great episode that was. I mean, really, I can't think of a better way to do a tribute to the show than the way they did in this episode. I thought it was a beautiful tribute. I thought it really showed how far these characters had come, and it made sense why they did this crossover when they did, because there's so, especially Legends, because there's so many people on Legends Tomorrow that are from Arrow. You know, you got your Ray Palmer, you got your Sarah Lance, who started on Arrow and started as, you know, main characters on the show. So it made sense why they came back for this episode, and I think it was just really well done overall. But let's just get in this episode. I really enjoyed, still a really fun crossover, just a lot more emotional than the last one, definitely. And that's saying something because of all the crazy stuff with Barry, but let's just get into it. So, we start with a scene that kind of was paralleling, I think, the beginning of Season 4, where he's jogging through the woods, and he emerges in the backyard of the Queen Mansion, and after his run, he takes a shower, but it's not with Felicity. We see he's taking a shower, and Laurel is in the shower. Dinah Laurel Lance, he is in fact engaged to, and it was really, really big to see Katie Cassidy back on the show, because it's been so long since, you know, we've seen her. She was, of course, was killed off in Season 4. I think that it was a really well done death scene. I know a lot of people have thought that it was very unnecessary and that they just did it to add some sort of oomph to the season, but I think it very well propelled the season. I think it's worked really well into this season especially, and these two have always been such a I think just such a major relationship of Arrow that she had to have come back. So I was very happy that in some way they did get Katie Cassidy back here, and they talk about Sarah. Now, I thought what they were going to do is they were going to have, you know, when they announced that Katie Cassidy was coming back, I thought it was going to be the evil side, like the Earth 2 side of Laura. That's what I thought. I was glad to see that, because I don't really want to see Oliver have to deal with the villain side of Laura. I feel like he already has too much on his hands, but they talk about Sarah arriving for the wedding, and just a really great start. It starts off really off-kilter. It starts off very confusing, and first, they did do something that, of course, this is done many times before, you know, with one of those, like, alternate reality things, but they do a good job in not just making it that. It's a lot more than that, and I'm definitely going to get into that. So in reality, we see the Dominators actually have Oliver in a stasis pod, as well as Sarah, Thea, Diggle, and Ray, and we get to see the way that plays out throughout the rest of the episode. But of course, also we do have the crossover stuff going on. Now, here's one complaint. Why don't we... Now, I know this was, in fact, you know, the crossover and everything, and we did switch from Star Labs to, for some reason, the Arrow Cave. I don't know why we randomly went from the two. They didn't really explain, but I mean, I get why they needed the recruits and everything. But what happened to Jax and Stein? I know that Stein went off with Caitlin to find out more about his daughter, but Jax was there. Jax was there when, you know, they were fighting, so I don't know why Jax wasn't present in this episode. It was kind of weird that he wasn't there. But either way, Renee trains while Curtis and Rory are talking, and while Curtis and Mick are talking about the alien invasion, and Felicity enters with Cisco and introduces him around. No, Mick. I said Rory because usually Rory means Mick, but Mick talk about the invasion. Felicity enters with Cisco and introduces him around, and Renee is not happy to find out that Cisco is a metahuman, and Cisco basically explains to them what they need to do. He talks about how he needs to use one of Oliver's old bows goes to Viva's location. He sees the stasis pod, and he has a stolen piece of alien tech that they might be able to use to find the prisoners. And I did like seeing Renee keep on to those values of not really liking metahumans. Like, you can tell he's very against it, and again, it's understandable why he's so against it. Again, we know why he's against it, so it made sense. But seeing this conflict with Cisco, I thought overall was very interesting. I definitely did like seeing that. I just kind of wanted some more interplay between him and Barry, because I know a lot of people think it's petty. It's a petty conflict in that it's not really that big of a deal. Like, it's a very trivial type conflict. But I understand why Cisco's upset, and I think it's one of the strongest parts of the Flash so far. So I kind of want to see more of that, but I'm sure we'll see more of that tonight. But Thea, then we go back to the alternate reality where Thea gives Oliver a Hosen as a pre-wedding gift, and we see Moira and Robert Queen are in fact also alive, and it's the same actors and actress, which just seeing Moira, because of course I didn't see the first season of Arrow, but of course seeing Robert Queen, definitely it gets a bit teary, but seeing Moira, that definitely got to me. I mean, Moira Queen's death, I think, is one of the most powerful deaths the show has ever given us. I mean, remember, I said it many times, she died by choice. This was not something that Oliver told her to do. This was not something that Thea told her to do. Slade would have probably was going to kill one of them. He was probably going to kill Thea, and she volunteered to take her own life and to save her children. So to see Moira again was just incredible, and I think really just shows how far the show has come. And everyone's surprised when Oliver catches a vase before it can hit the ground. He has flashes of a memory from his real life, and that's definitely a big part of this episode. And meanwhile, Laurel greets Sarah outside the mansion. Sarah's upset by Laurel's canary necklace. Suddenly, we don't know what that's about, but it's of course a gift from Oliver. And throughout this episode, we see all 5 of them start to crack. Throughout the episode, and this is definitely a small sign of that starting to happen. So Oliver and his father take a walk. Oliver and Robert take a walk, discussing how Robert will take over the job of mayor in just a few months. And of course, again, that's crazy here because we know that Oliver's mayor, and he is in fact mayor to upend his father's duties. And the board of Queen Consolidated won't approve Walter Steele as the new CEO. So if Oliver doesn't take over, Ray will in fact buy them out. And Oliver's surprised to see a building with the name Smoke Technologies on it, since it's usually Palmer Tech, as we know, but it's Smoke Technologies in this world, and they're suddenly mugged. Oliver steps forward to defend his father. They are saved by Vigilante in a green hood, and I like that not everything is perfect in this world. Like, this isn't at all a perfect world. And at the mansion, Oliver talks to Thea about the mugging. Robert's amazed that Oliver was so brave, and as Laurel enters and hugs Oliver, and then Laurel enters and hugs Oliver. And again, Robert doesn't know how Oliver was able to do all this, because remember, in this world, Oliver never got that training. He was never on, I think he was never even on the island in the first place. Like, all of this, he doesn't know how this all happened, and he continues to have flashes of memory. He excused himself, and I thought that definitely was very interesting to see. But Curtis works while talking to Rory about theology. Curtis points his own translating software together with the alien tech to see if they can understand the language. However, there's an explosion. So we essentially get Arrival here, I think just like a smaller type version of Arrival. But you guys know how a lot of Arrivals, I'm trying to translate the alien language. Yeah, that's basically what this episode is. And it's slow, definitely, but it was fun. I definitely like seeing it. They need a regular to make the technology work together. One was recently stolen by a woman named Laura Washington. I don't know if we're going to see her, but she's been making herself powerful with stolen tech, and Felicity thinks that they need some help. So I don't know if we're going to see Laura Washington at all, but I thought it was interesting to hear about. But Oliver goes to see Lance, who is police captain at the station, and he's a lot more confident, just a lot more happy with himself. I mean, he has his 2 daughters. The man's pretty much said. I mean, there's really nothing he can be too upset about. His daughter's getting married. The vigilante who saved him, his father, is known as the Hood. And when Oliver has more flashes of memory, Lance is concerned about him getting cold feet. Oliver reassures him, and Lance tells Oliver that he's impressed with the adult Oliver that Oliver has matured into. And I like this scene between Oliver and Lance, definitely, because they've always had a tough dynamic, and I like that here they do have that really nice bond that we've always wanted to have, but it was definitely sad to see. I felt it was very bittersweet to see Lance as a happy man, because we haven't seen him this happy in a very long time, and unfortunately, the sad reality is I don't know if he'll ever be this content with himself. I mean, maybe rehab will do it, but I honestly don't know, but it was cool to see him again. The rehearsal dinner is in full swing, but Oliver's not there, upsetting Laurel. Ray is there. Both Ray and Sarah have flashes of real memories, and Oliver's not at the dinner because he's taking the elevator to the Arrow Cave, and once down there, Felicity yells for help, and the hood is actually Diggle, knocks Oliver out, and Oliver wakes to interrogation by Diggle. He remembers both Diggle and Felicity's names, and that Diggle was, in fact, his bodyguard, and Diggle insists that Andy is the bodyguard. And again, hearing that Andy's still alive, such a big revelation. I mean, Diggle's the one that killed him, as we know, and Oliver remembers that Diggle killed Andy, and I'm very, confident in thinking that none of this was by chance. Like, everything we saw here happened for a reason. Like, Oliver had Andy alive to deal with the guilt of him having to kill Andy, because, you know, that guilt is still in him. He'll never feel 100%, and Oliver remembers that Diggle killed Andy. Diggle throws Oliver out, tells him to forget everything, and just, again, really crazy scene of them clearly trying not to break this mirage that they're in, that Oliver very quickly starting to realize is not at all the real reality. So Wild Dog meets with Ragman, Mr. Terrific, and The Flash, and it was cool to see The Flash and Supergirl, but they're barely in this episode. They only had about maybe 4 really big scenes, and Supergirl joins them as well. Wild Dog does not hide disgust at The Flash and Supergirl, just saying that he's really against, we know that he's very much against metahumans, and again, I understood why. I get why he's very much against them, because they're so much more powerful, and it doesn't make them feel like they have as much to do. Like, I understand it, so they split to search for Washington. Supergirl and the Flash try to befriend Wild Dog, but he insists the powers are evil. He walks away from them and gets blasted by Washington, who is covered in various tech. And back in the alternate reality, Moira helps Thea get ready for the wedding. Thea has her own flashes of memory, including Moira's death, and what a crushing scene, honestly. Just seeing her alive, and the next second realizing, oh yeah, my mother's dead, just crazy to think about. But Sarah isn't helping Laurel when Oliver comes in. Sarah makes her anger at Oliver for missing the rehearsals. They were very clear before leaving them alone, muttering that Oliver's lucky she's not a trained assassin or something, which we know that she is, in fact, which I thought was pretty funny. A lot of subtle jokes in here as well, which I really liked. But Oliver begs Laurel to elope with him, even though the wedding is only in a few hours. He's afraid that he'll have to leave her, and he does not want to lose her, but he does know he might give her up. He'll take the job at Queen Consolidate and give her everything she wants. Laurel forgives him for the dinner and loves him, but wants the wedding they plan. Diggle shows and asks to speak to Oliver, and Diggle and Oliver then walk the grounds. So I did like this scene between those two. Again, we're reminded how great chemistry they have, but Diggle and Oliver then walk the grounds. Diggle is also having flashes of memory. He's also noticed the Smoke Technologies building, which is strange because Felicity's never owned a building or business, and he doesn't really know why that's there. So Diggle shows Oliver a picture he drew of a Dominator, and Oliver realizes that this is what would have happened if he never got on the boat. If he would never got on the boat, this would be his life. He would never be the Arrow. Diggle would have been the Hood. He would have never met Felicity. His life would be completely different, and it's not really the life that Oliver wants. So you can tell that he really is not happy with this life, and suddenly Deathstroke stands before them. Diggle and Oliver fight him, and Sarah joins him from out of nowhere. It was kind of disappointing to see Deathstroke and not have Manu Bennett come back, but again, I understand there were a lot of issues between him and the writers, but Sarah, because I guess he wasn't getting paid enough or something like that, but Sarah, Diggle, and Oliver discuss their situation. They realize that Thea and Ray are the others trapped in the same hallucination, and Diggle thinks that Smoke Technologies is the key, and they should head there. So Wild Dog then fights Washington, gets his ass kicked, and the Flash and Supergirl save him. They knock Washington out. Wild Dog does thank them, and I like that they were able to prove themselves, that they proved that they can, in fact, be heroes, and I like that they were able to get on his good side, because I like Renee. I know a lot of people don't like Renee. They think he's really annoying, but I get it. I get why he has this detest for metahumans. It's honestly understandable. I mean, really, you have to put yourself in his situation. I think it makes sense why Renee has the detest he does for metahumans in the way he does. So Thea and Malcolm then talk about Tommy's career as a doctor in Chicago. Again, hearing Tommy's name was so big to hear. I came into the show with Tommy dead. I knew that from season 1 that Tommy had died. I never actually got to see Tommy's character, but I heard he was such a substantial part of the show, and just hearing his name is pretty crazy just to think that's how far we've come. But Sarah finds Ray with his fiancée Felicity, pulls him aside, and very quickly he starts to remember. Oliver then walks towards Felicity when his parents stop him. They're worried about his strange behavior. He hugs them both and heads towards Thea, but Sarah already filled her in. Thea does not want to leave the fantasy, and it makes sense why. I get why Thea doesn't want to. She thinks that they have everyone there, and Thea makes a really good point that they have the Flash, they have Supergirl, they have Wild Dog, they have so many people. Why do they have the Legends? Why do they need them really? They can be there for the rest of the time once the Dominators are done with them. Then they can just go on their merry way. She doesn't really understand why they need to get out of this world, and I think it definitely made sense, especially with us, the direction that Thea's going. Granted, she was the one that wanted to be Speedy, so she kind of did this to herself, but at the same time, I get why Thea wanted to stay there, and it definitely was sad to see, but Sarah leaves Oliver to talk to her. Thea cannot stand the thought of losing her parents again because she wants to believe that they're alive. Let's face it, she loved her parents, and Oliver definitely did too. But they just can't stay there. That's the sad reality, is that that's not their life. And Oliver tries to convince her, but in the end agrees to let her stay, says goodbye, and he actually is going to let her stay there. And outside, Oliver then joins Diggle, Ray, and Sarah. He tells them that Thea's not coming. He worries that there will be obstacles put in their way when he's hit by an arrow, and we see Malcolm, Deathstroke, Dark, and other fighters face them. Thea joins the fight, accepting that Oliver's her family, and she needs to go home. And seeing them each kill someone, I thought was really cool to see. Seeing Oliver go, seeing Sarah go after Dark for what he did to Laurel, of course. Seeing I think Ray went after Deathstroke, if I'm not wrong, or something like that. But I did like seeing Thea be the one to kill Malcolm. That was definitely a big moment, because Malcolm mind controlling Thea is probably one of the worst storylines the show did. I don't really think it serviced Thea well. I don't really think it serviced Malcolm well. I really like John Barrowman. I really do love you as an actor, and I really like Willa Holland as well. But him mind controlling her, now she's on her own. I really like this side of Thea a lot more, and seeing her get to kill him was just so satisfying. And as they fight, Malcolm taunts Thea about her real father. Dark reminds Sarah of Laurel's death. Diggle's wounded, and eventually Thea kills Malcolm. Sarah stabs Dark with an arrow, and Oliver shoots Deathstroke in the eye. Just really satisfying stuff overall. So Laurel then comes to the door, begins to tearfully beg Sarah and Oliver to stay with her. They both say goodbye, and again, it's really sad to see, because not just for them, but we know this is going to be the last time we're going to see Laurel Lance, probably, ever. We're never going to see her again. I'm sure they'll mention her because she's such a big part of this season, but this is probably going to be one of the last times we see Laurel Lance for a while, definitely. So it was definitely very sad to see her go, but again, very satisfying, especially when we get to the next scene. Which, this next scene, definitely, if there was not a better scene to sum up the 100th episode than the way this next scene goes. We see at Smoke Technology, they find a sort of mist wall. They walk through, and Oliver kind of he takes this look. Just before they go through, he takes one last look back over his shoulder, sees images of those he lost. Not just the ones who died, but his parents, Laurel and Tommy, people who he knows are not going to be there when he goes back to the real world. And he's just taking a second and just seeing his look, him ready to move on, is just such a satisfying moment. Oliver's always been someone who would just jump to the last resort to save his family. He will always do selfless things. Hell, he killed himself for his family. He fell on his own sword about his family. Remember, Roz defeated him in season 3. He technically died already, so we remember how all that went. And yeah, so Oliver's always someone who would do something selfless, but to see him move past this and finally accept, this reality is just such a rewarding moment. I love the way that was done, and I think just such a great culmination of the show overall. Everything we've gone through, everyone we've lost, all these characters that we've cared about that we can't see anymore. It was great getting to see them all one last time. Granted, we didn't see Roy, which was very strange to see. Roy was such an essential part of the show in the first 3 seasons. I don't know why he wasn't here. It was definitely weird not to see him, but we also see Ray and Felicity. He hears messages that they told him in the past, and they finally wake up from stasis, we see. Diggle is still in pain from the injury he received in the fantasy world, because as we know, he was hurt, and Felicity's using the regulator on the alien tech, but she can't read what it says. Roy realizes it's Hebrew, where letters are also numbers. That allows Felicity to translate. And now, how Rory knew Hebrew, I guess he was Jewish, but the prisoners have walked through their ship looking for a way to escape. And such a cool scene. They come across a group of Dominators. Oliver finds a weapon. We essentially get like a preview, I think, of what we're going to get tonight. They shoot while they get away. They find a number of smaller jump ships and get into into one, and I thought that was just such a cool scene, seeing them, mow down all these aliens, trying to get them away from them, and having Oliver be the one to do that, I just thought was very interesting. But I love that none of them knew how to fly the ship. But again, Sarah flies the Wave Rider, so I don't know why she couldn't have just flew this. She could have easily done that, but she didn't. But Thea manages to make it launch, but none of them know how to control it because it's way different than the Wave Rider. But other jump ships follow and attack. Suddenly, the Wave Rider appears literally out of nowhere and pulls them in with a tractor beam. Now, it makes sense too. Obviously, they need to get onto Legend of Tomorrow. And there we do, in fact, see Nate. He greets everyone in the Wave Rider, which I was very happy to see Nate. I love his character. I think he brings so much to the show. It was great to see him here, but he greets everyone in the Wave Rider. Sarah takes Diggle to the med bay. The others realize they were taken because they're not metahumans, and that makes perfect sense. There's not much the Dominators can do with them in terms of getting into their heads, and they were searching their subconscious for information because they were trying to find out what they could use and things like that, and they couldn't really use the mind control devices on them, as we know. So Ray also remembers a phrase one of the Dominators said and recites it, and Gideon and he does know what it's all about, but Gideon translates, and it says, "We are nearing completion of the weapon." We don't know what that's about, but the Dominator ship heads towards Earth, and we hear the Legends of Tomorrow theme. It means we're about to go to Legends of Tomorrow, and that is the way the episode ends. Really great stuff overall, but let's just get into this episode and how I thought about it overall. So in terms of a crossover, this episode really wasn't too big. We did in fact see Supergirl, we did see The Flash, we did see them interact with the recruits from Arrow and Cisco and things like that, but we didn't really see much of a crossover here. This was definitely more of Arrow's 100th episode. It made sense. I mean, it made sense why they made this a 4-night crossover. Like I said, they're allowed to slow things down here. They have a lot more breathing room, and I'm completely fine with that. I don't need full, 10-second action every 5 seconds. I don't need that, really. I mean, I know you guys might, but I don't need a 10-minute action scene every 5 seconds. That's just not the way I roll. I like that this did, in fact, have breathing room, and this episode especially used it really, really well. I mean, especially just showing how far we've come in Arrow, especially that scene where he just sees everyone in his life, getting to see Laurel, getting to see Tommy, hearing about Tommy, but getting to see his parents again. Again, just weird not to see Roy there, but I did think that it was just a very well done tribute to Arrow, and I can't believe that this is Arrow's 100th episode. It seems I just can't believe how far the show's come, but The Flash is going to get there really soon, definitely. Once they get to season 5, they'll get to 100 episodes. I don't know if The Flash is going to get to that, but definitely it's cool to see Arrow, because that was the one that started all this, really. Arrow's the one that started all this, crazy stuff on the CW, so I thought it was really cool to see a 100th episode from them. Definitely really good stuff there. But the big question is, what is the Dominator's plan? We have no idea what this device is about. We don't know what weapon they're nearing completion of. I think that definitely is going to be very interesting. And what is exactly is going to happen here? It looks like tonight's episode is like a full-on battle, and I can't wait to see the way that's going to go. Like I said, my only other question is, where did Jax go? Where did Stein go? I'm hoping these arcs do get concluded. The thing with Stein that we saw in episode 2, I'm hoping we see more of here, because we saw it for a reason. I hope that we continue to see that, and it makes sense why we were seeing it, because I don't just want this to be like a random thing, but again, we'll have to see. And then as far as the whole thing goes with Renee, I am interested in seeing if they're going to use them. I doubt they will. But I did think it was a little bit weird not to see Artemis, but as we know, Artemis is betraying the team. I just thought it was interesting that no one really thought anything of it. I guess because Evelyn just complains all the time, but it makes sense why now, because she in fact betrayed the team, which it looks like I can't wait for next week's mid-season finale. That's definitely going to be all kinds of epic. Unfortunately, I can't watch it live because of Hairspray Live, which is not unfortunate at all because I am so hyped for that, but that is a completely different interview. We'll get into that in another time, but either way, I'm getting so off track here. Really did love this episode, guys. I think this was just a really well-done tribute to Arrow and everything that they've just showing everything that Oliver's been through, but also a really well-done crossover. I did like seeing the interactions between Supergirl and The Flash because we did get to see it in the first one, but it was more focused on Barry's choices, so I did like that we got to see these two. I'm just hoping we get more some great character moments like we did in this one, but also the great action that we got in the first one. I'm hoping that we get a really nice balance of that. Mark Guggenheim said this is the most chaotic hour they've ever written, which kind of concerns me because it's a 60-minute show. If this was a Netflix show, I wouldn't be as concerned, but it's not, as we know. You know, this is a show that has commercials, so I am a little bit worried that it's going to be a little bit rushed, but we'll have to see. Either way, I really enjoyed this crossover. I definitely looking forward to seeing how it all ends tonight. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys saw this episode overall. I know I didn't have as much to say about this episode because, again, I just thought it was a really nice tribute to Arrow, showing what they've gone through and everything, which I really did enjoy. But I will see you guys in my as well as being a really good crossover. It just wasn't really as much of a crossover as, say, the other ones. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which, guys, I know you've been waiting for it, and finally it's going to be coming. The next video will, in fact, be for the December movie preview, which, guys, it's a very long video, so be prepared, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.